Hello everybody. So I hope that everybody enjoyed my Adam and Eve video, and also my next video, which was about the origins of mankind. Bit of an interesting one there. I think I put it as it began in Africa, brackets Chad and Ethiopia. I haven't actually checked the view counts. I don't know if they're going to be high or low. Perhaps it'll take a bit of time for people to actually care about my videos again. Or maybe the Atlantis one was just a one-off, who knows. Anyway, so today I'm going to do a similar sort of look, and this one's going to be about religion. Now, I'm not talking about any particular religion here, but rather about religions as a whole. So I'm going to start from the basis of the religion I know very well, and that's Christianity. And what a lot of people, most people who are Christians know, we've split Christianity into two, into Roman Catholic, or just Catholic, and that's the most popular one, and then Protestant. And then Protestant is then split further into about 100 of them. So there's all sorts of different ones. We can look through different groups of, has Church of England similar to Anglican, then there's all these other ones, and so forth and so forth. And some are similar to each other, some are more different. And you've even got cults and sects and all sorts of things. And then Christianity is actually derived from Judaism, or the religion of the Jews. And in actual fact, if you look at what's happened, it's more kind of like Christianity is kind of a modern version of Judaism. And I'm not saying that Jews are stuck in the past, because they've modernized themselves, but it's more like you kind of started with Judaism, and of course Jesus Christ was a Jew, and then it evolved into Christianity. But there are still people who are Jews that still exist to this day. They're nowhere near as many as there are Christians. I don't have the exact number, but I think Jews are probably around 100,000 people worldwide. Maybe it's 200,000, but it's nowhere near the level of Christianity, which I think is around 2 billion, maybe even 3. And then we also know that Islam is also largely based on Judaism. Now, it's a little bit separate, and it of course came after Christianity. It's not based on Christianity at all, because in that area they didn't know that Christianity had come. But it's based on Judaism, and of course, rather than have Jesus Christ as the Son of God, they say that Jesus Christ was a prophet, and that Muhammad, Islam, was the most important prophet, and therefore Islam was based on him. And that's the main essential difference. They still like Jesus, and there are many Christians that still regard Muhammad Islam as a good man, although some don't. But if you kind of think of it as those two being brothers or sisters or siblings, and their parent being Judaism, then you have a bit of an idea as to how it actually works. And in a lot of ways, it's probably even wrong to call Christianity a separate religion. We should really be saying, well, Christianity as a sect of Judaism. And similarly, Islam, not really a separate religion, that's also a sect of Judaism. And of course, Islam is split into, I think it's Shiite and, I've forgotten the other one, unfortunately. But there's two major ones for them as well. And in fact, Judaism is split as well into several different groups. And so we have within that group, and some people call them Abrahamic religions because they all follow Abraham. And so that's one way of describing it, or we could call it Judeo-Christian or Judeo religions, or there's many different ways to describe it, but those three, and all of their different sects and all their different paths, are all considered to be the same religion. And that's quite interesting. I talked about that a little bit in the Adam and Eve one. So about 60% of the world's population follow something related to that religion, to Judaism, Christianity, or Islam. And so then we also can look at other religions as well, and we can see a similar sort of pattern. If you look at Hinduism, and look, I don't know that religion very well, but what I've been told is that Hinduism then led to Buddhism, and possibly even Sikhism as well. And there may even be more beyond that. So Some Hindus believe that all religions are based on their religion, including Judaism. I'm not convinced that that's true, but that's what they say. And we can even go back, if we go to the religion of the ancient Romans, and we can see that they pretty much worship the same gods as the ancient Greeks. They just gave them different names and slightly different descriptions. And you sort of say, well, which one came first? And the general belief is that the Greeks came first, or at least religion-wise, and the Romans kind of stole it off them, and they just changed some of the names. So, you know, that sort of thing has happened, and we can see these patterns with religions, that we can say, okay, religion sort of just changed a little bit as perhaps we went from one area to another. And of course that goes in with that migration, which I was talking about in a previous video, about it began in Africa. And religion logically would change slightly when they're physically apart from somewhere else. So let's say that you grew up in Israel and then you decided as a group that you all moved to Germany. Completely different area, different ideas, and perhaps instead of being Jews, you sort of changed into something else. And I think that's sort of along the lines of what might have happened. And I think that that's probably, if we look back on it, we can actually get all of the world's religions, all the ones that most people follow today, and we can take them all the way back to the religion of the Sumerians. So ancient Sumer, which, if you believe their accounts, is 500,000 years ago, but if you believe historians, it's 6,500 years ago. So either way, the generally accepted view is that all of these old religions go back to the religions of ancient Sumer. And ancient Sumer, if we look at it, they worship giants, basically called Anunnaki, and we can say they're pretty synonymous with the ancient Greek and ancient Roman titans. But then they also worship dragons. We see dragons all throughout every religion in the world, and they're all over the place, so much that a lot of people believe that dragons really were real. But dragons kind of were angels. They weren't really physical beings, so that we can kind of understand why they didn't have bones. But then we go, they also worshipped a world dragon, and we didn't see world dragons very much after that, but perhaps the Jewish and Christian view of God was this world dragon, was this Uzmagor, this great creature that never came to Earth, that was so huge and that created Earth. Perhaps they just changed him from being an enormous, you know, the size of the galaxy dragon to being sort of human-like. And that's, we can sort of see that. So is there just one religion? And I'll say no, there isn't, there's two. Now I'm not saying the two religions are Islam and Christianity, or Hinduism and Buddhism, or even Hinduism and Judaism. What I'm saying is that all of those religions all are based on the Sumerian religion, but that's actually the new religion. Whether you believe it came 6,500 years ago or 500,000 years ago, it's still the new religion. And the old religion probably dates back to when humanity first arose, and as we said before, the fossil record suggests it's about 8 million years ago. It might have been longer than that, it might have been 10 million. So when humanity arose, I think that there's a lot of evidence that we probably had our own religion when we arose. In fact, probably animals do follow some kind of religion. I think that it's just a natural part of being alive, that most people would believe in some sort of religion, something beyond their life. I don't think that's a purely human thing to do. And so whether we were created either by aliens or gods or whatever, or we evolved, I think that we had religion when we started out. And that old religion, I think, would have been a natural base one. And we can see some of this today. There are still old religions going around. They're not very widely worshipped at the moment, but they certainly were. And in some parts of the world, these are described as animalistic or totemic, or tribal. In other places, of course, we have beliefs in fairies and elves, in things like that. So it really depends on where you are in the world, but they all have that thing in common where they're following nature. They're worshipping trees, they're worshipping the sun. And if you want to think of one example, is the Druids. And certainly that's an old religion. Now, of course, in saying all of that, there are actually some religions that sort of combine the old and the new in a little bit of a funny way. And we actually talk about the ancient Greeks as one of those that did that, because if we think of the Titans as being perhaps a little bit old religion, and then their war with the gods could have actually been a war, maybe physical, or maybe in the subconscious, between the old gods and the new, with the new gods winning. We certainly see today something around 98-99% of the world's population, at least those that follow a religion, follow new religions. Very few people follow the old religions, and that's just very unusual. So certainly that seems to be the case today. And yeah, so did they have a physical war? Some people would think they did, and that's certainly if we believe that the old religions were aliens and the new religions were aliens too. They must have had a war, and maybe they did, maybe they didn't. Maybe there have been other religions over the years that are completely independent. Some people who believe that religions are based on alien life and that all gods are aliens would say there's probably been several different groups of aliens that have come along, but it wouldn't have just been a new one that's come recently. But I think from a theological point of view, we can say there's two, and there's only two. There's not 20, and the two aren't Hindu and Christianity or anything like that. I think that we can say Hinduism, Buddhism, Sikhism, Judaism, Christianity and Islam are all one. They're all new religions. And so are Sumer, so are ancient Greece, so are ancient Roman, so are even ancient Egypt. They're all new religions. And then the old religions are the ones that came before. Now that's not to say that we don't worship old religions today. We certainly do. And there might even be new versions of them today. But they're still still old religions. So if you even do Wicca as a new version of an old religion, that's still very much an old religion. That's something along those lines. It's based on something that was followed when we first emerged as humans, whenever that might have been, 8 or 9 million years ago, whenever it might have been. And I think we're believing in things that were similar to that. Now, I'm in no way suggesting that religions are a lie. I think that there's a lot of truth to them. But this is just simply what the facts are. Anyway, that's all I have to say about this. So bye bye now.